Hello, this is Scott Chacon. Today we're going to be installing Git on Windows and seeing how to use Git in a Windows environment. So the first thing we're going to do is go to the Git homepage in our web browser and download Git for Windows. So you go to git.or.cz and download the mSysGit version. That takes you to Google Code. You can download the exe and go ahead and run that file. Now, if you open up the file that gets downloaded, it's going to give you a little normal Windows setup deal. And you're just going to go ahead and, in this case, I'm just going to use all the defaults. Install it on my local hard drive, install all the tools. I don't use the command prompt for anything on this particular thing, so you can just sort of overwrite the defaults in the command prompt, and that's about how difficult it is to get Git set up on Windows. So now you have two options here. You have the visual one and the command line one. So we're going to, I just threw away the installer, and we have the command line one on our desktop there. And we can go over here and we're going to move the visual one onto our desktop as well so that we can see both of these options that we have. So let's open up the visual Git client. And we have a couple of options here. What we're going to do is clone an existing repository from GitHub. So this is the easiest way to get started. You can also create a new repository from that page, or take a directory that exists and make a Git repository out of it. But for this, we're going to go to one of my projects, and we're just going to close it. We're going to clone it. So the first thing you have to do is, in this case, go to GitHub. It's an easy place to find them, and we'll clone the simple Git directory that I have here. And you just take the normal git clone URL that you get from GitHub or from anywhere else, and you type it in the URL in the Git Windows visualization. And then the next thing you have to do is choose where it goes. So here we're going to choose our desktop, and then you have to add a slash and the name of the repository after that. And then you hit clone, and it'll go through and clone the repository. And it opens up this visual interface. This is Git GUI, which you can get on Linux or Mac as well, but is fairly rarely used by most people that I know. But we're going to use it because it's actually not a bad UI for this. And now we can see that I have my code here. It cloned it from the GitHub repository, and we're cool. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is make a change. So I'm going to show you a little bit of workflow in Windows. So we're going to make a change to this file and save it. And we're going to go here and click refresh, and we can see that my VIM thing added a couple of swap files and stuff that are useless. But we can also see that this particular file has been changed. All right, so it's added this function that I just added, and we can stage it. And staging it adds it to the index. If you are aware of that, you can watch the Git talk that I did, which was the last episode, to understand that a little bit better. But if we type in a message here for our commit and sign off, if you wanted to do that, you can say this was signed off. That's generally not done unless you're doing like a rebase or something, but just some options that you have in the GUI client. And we can hit commit, and that'll take everything that's in the staged area here, and it will commit it to our repository. Now, you can also get some interesting statistics out of this. So if you go to the statistics, you can see that we have 4 objects that are loose here. You can do things like compress the database. This will pack all of your loose files. And now if we go to statistics again, you can see that now we have 0 loose objects, right? So it packed everything that we had in there. So there's some database setup and maintenance that you can do with this tool. Merge, commit, branch. We can create a new branch. So let's do that. We'll type in a new branch name here, and we're gonna make it a local branch and branch it. And now we can see that our current branch name has changed. Okay, so now we're on the develop branch. So now if we make a change to this, we're making it in our branch. So we'll add an option to our function here, and we'll commit it into this branch. So again, we have to hit refresh. We see that there's a change to the file. I've added that option. So I'm going to add in my commit message, and I'm going to stage this file. If you just hit commit, it's going to show you that there's nothing staged, so you have to stage the change first and then commit. This is a thing where there's no like commit-a, right? You have to do the git add, which does the staging, and then you have to do the git commit, which actually commits it to your repository. So now let's go to branch checkout, and we see we have a master branch and a development branch, and we can see a little bit of information about each of the commits on those, the last commits. And so let's check out our master branch. So now we're switching back to our master branch. Now if we go to our file, we can see a warning this file has been changed because the checkout will check out the older version. And so now we can see that we have this without the option that we just added because we went back to our master branch. Okay, so we can keep that workflow of having a master branch and a development branch and topic branches and such. And now if we switch back to our development branch, we get the same warning. It changed our file for us. We have the option again. Okay, so it's easy to go back and forth. Let's go back to our master branch. And we're going to merge them together. So I'm going to merge in the changes on my development branch. So if you go to merge, you'll see the ones that you can merge in. You just choose the one you hit. You can check out what's happening first if you want to, and it'll fire up GitK, just like you have GitK on Mac or Linux or something. And if you hit merge, it'll actually do the merge, and we can see that it merged that one change in our file. So now let's add a new remote. Now there's no way to add a remote right now from the command line. I'm sorry, from the GUI interface. So we have to actually do it from the command line. So we're going to change directories into our Git directory, which is on our desktop under simple Git. And we can see that for one, there's a couple of files that were left over, the sort of swap files. We're going to remove those, which we just did. And we can run git log. We can see the changes we just made here. And we can see where our master branch was and where our master branch is, and that we don't have a development branch there anymore. And so now we're going to sign up for a new Git account as if we were a different user. And then we're going to add our other one here as a remote so that we can check it out. Right? So we're going to set up a new user, set up an email address. This is the sign up process for GitHub. If you want to create a new user, you just do email address and such. And now we need to put in a public key if we want to push something. So we're going to run a command that actually comes with Git, the mSysGit version, which is SSH keygen. And in this case, it's .exe. And we're going to put in our email address, and it's going to create a new SSH key for us. And this is pretty cool because this is otherwise kind of difficult to do on Windows. So Windows doesn't come with SSH tools as far as I know. And so if you install the mSysGit version, you can just run the normal SSH keygen commands to create your public and private keys. And then we have to go and find that key, right, which is in under your documents and settings. And the .ssh directory here will have a public key and a private key. So if you open up your public key under Notepad or something, it'll actually just give you your key here, and you can copy this and paste this. And we'll go back to our GitHub and we'll paste this in where it asks for our SSH public key. So that's the entire thing for generating a public key and for doing it in the GitHub signup. And so now we have a new user. Okay, I think I named it test user. And so now we're going to go in and we're going to show you how to do a push into a new Git repository on Windows. So let's create a new repository. We'll just call it something here. and we'll add a file to it. Let's say we're just doing like a little Word document that we want to have, all of our different versions of it in here. So we'll do a little doc file here, name it something. We'll put some message in this just to have a little bit of content here. And save that. And now we're going to create a new Git repository for this. So you can use the visual one to do that, but I'm gonna show you how to do it on the command line as well. So if you go into your project here, we can see that the doc file we just created and run git init. That'll create a new Git repository. Git add dot will add all your files into it, and git commit -a is actually not necessary here, but -m, because we just added all the files. -m your message, my first commit, and so now we have a little Git repository. So if we go to GitHub again and we log in as the user that we just created, we want to create a new repository. We're going to create a place to push this repository to. We're going to say my documents, because we had some documents in there, and you can give it some description. And in this particular case, we're just going to keep it as a public project. And now we have a list of instructions on what to do. So we have this config setting where we want to set our username and email in here. And so we're going to just go ahead and type that in on the command line. So git config -- global user.email and the email address that we just signed up for. All right, so that's step one. Step two is to add this as a remote into your Git repository. So we're going to use, and you can see on both of these, either existing or not, that git remote add and git push is identical. So we're just going to do that. Basically follow the steps of this existing Git repo here on GitHub. So we're going to run git remote add origin, and then the clone URL that is given to us by GitHub, and that adds GitHub as a remote, and we're going to push to it. So you just run git push origin master is your master branch, and it pushed to it. So now we can go back to GitHub and we can refresh this page, and we can see that we have pushed in a new commit and it has our document in it. So that's basically how you push on the command line in Windows, how you use the Git GUI tool to inspect and to stage and commit changes in Windows. And hopefully that helps you get started using Git in Windows. Thank you very much.